Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our January monthly data reporting managers call. I am Carolyn Bostic, the team lead for the data in the Office of Special Education Services. I hope to provide clarification to you on a couple of things this morning. We're going to talk about child count, future data reports, personnel report, the indicator post-secondary outcomes, systemic verification checks, just a message to our enriched districts, a couple of reminders, and as always, our OSIS data contacts. Okay, so for our child count clarifications, if the students are ages 3, 4, and 5 and is pre-K, the LRE should be one of the codes to the right. We learned last month that ISPs are not applicable for early childhood students. They should have an IEP, and the point of contact for that is Sherry Evans. So as I am going through child count clarifications, those students who were notated as having an LRE for ISPs, I have given those district information over to Sherry Evans for follow-up on how to correct. So if you have students with ISPs that are pre-K students, I cannot officially clear you until those LREs have been corrected. Okay. Just an example of what I'm referencing, and this is a snippet from the child count report. The student age child count was 4, their pre-K, and the LRE was PPPS, right? And looking at the early childhood LREs at the bottom, the PPPS is not an applicable LRE for this student's grade and age. If this student were 5 and K, this LRE would be appropriate, but in the current form is not. Therefore, it is a federal error on your report and you cannot be cleared until it is corrected. Likewise, for your school age population, if the student is aged 5 through 21 and their grade level is K through 12, the LRE placement should be one of the codes highlighted to the right. Students who are school age and have ISPs should have the LRE of parentally placed in private school. That is the appropriate LRE for students who have ISPs. Okay, so an example of what the error would look like, you see the student is 5 and 5K, and their LRE is services in a regular early childhood program. This is not applicable for school age students and should have one of the LRE codes listed below. Okay. Okay. Now we're going to move on to our personnel report. I do want to say that there are a couple of districts that have been cleared and you should be getting information on certification. Hopefully I should have that to you by Monday, if not by end of day today. There for those districts that have been cleared and all issues have been resolved. I do want to say, I believe we had 4 or 5 districts that submitted their report with 0 errors. Their report was 100% correct upon submission to the state. So I will acknowledge those districts when we are doing certification. So, okay. Moving on to our personnel report. Okay, the personnel report is the purpose of this report is to report employed personnel who are employed or contracted who provide special education services and related services for children with disabilities. This count is based off of your child count report, so those who were employed as of the child count date. It is an Excel spreadsheet. This is not a report that is submitted via EdPlan or Enrich. It is submitted via an Excel spreadsheet and it is due, I did not change that date. It's due in February 7th, I believe. Is when if somebody on my team can just verify what that child count, I'm not sorry, what the table 2 submission date is for me and add it in the chat, I I really appreciate that. And it is due via Special Education Services. So that is submitted to our general email address. Oh, thank you, Nicole. It is due February 7th, and I will get that date corrected before I send this PowerPoint out. My apologies for that. So, personnel certification status. When we're talking about related services provider, speech language pathologists, school psychologists, audiologists, interpreters, our OTs, PTs, social workers, counselors, nurses, and orientation and mobility specialists. Um, all of these positions, with the exception of the interpreters, should be fully certified to be employed within your district. So we should have none of these that fall into the not fully certified category. However, when it comes to our interpreters, those are the only related service providers that may be considered not fully certified. So just a note to those districts who have previously reported these other related services personnel as not fully certified. In the state of South Carolina, you must hold a valid certification in order to work in that capacity. So that was a point of clarification by Angie Neal and Lisa McClimate, who presented last year on the certification status. Okay. The report is an FTE on percentages of time of related services personnel work specifically with the children with disabilities, according to 34 section 300.156. This data is rounded to the nearest hundredth decimal place. So it is not a count of staff, it is an FTE report, okay? So according to the State Board of Education regulations, as well as the South Carolina Labor License and Regulation statute, all other related services personnel must have a certificate from SCDE and or a license to practice from South Carolina LL. Okay, so that's just echoing what was on the first slide of reporting the related services personnel as not fully certified. So this is the guidance and the regulation that supports that we should not have anyone that's not licensed to practice in those within the district. Many related service personnel support both early childhood and school age students. Please be sure to account for the amount of time that they spend with each category so that we can report it accurately. We are shifting to a process of reporting the percentage of time that they work with the early childhood population as well as the school age. So we do not want to over or underrepresent. So just be mindful of that when you're calculating the percentage of time. Okay. We did want to provide you with a couple of examples. Okay, so for a school psychologist that spends 50% of their time supporting child find as well as the elementary school, this is a cut and dry, that's 50-50. So when you're reporting under the categories, that's going to be 50-50. However, you may have a speech language that works with the preschool program 25% of their time. And the school age population, 75%. Easy, once again. So we're talking 75, 25, 75. Real simple split. So where it gets a little tricky is when we're talking those who only work a percentage of hours per day for modified part-time staff, if you will. So if you have a speech language pathologist who works for 3 hours a day out of a 6-hour day, once again, that's a 0.5 FTE. Orientation mobility specialist who works 4 hours a day out of a 6-hour school day, that is counted as a 0.67% FTE. So when you have an audiologist who's working 4 hours per day on a 6-hour school day, I'm sorry, if you have 2 audiologists that works 4 hours per day, that's a total of 8 hours in a 6-hour day. So that becomes 1.33, which is rounded, which is actually 1.334, but it's rounded to the nearest hundredth. And so it would be reported as 1.33. Okay. Okay, we are moving on to indicator 14, which is also it's a survey report that provides a list of students that exited the previous year. So these are the students who exited in June of 24, to survey them to see what are they doing 1 year after leaving high school. We have changed the date of this report. It is now due March 14th, as things are skewed and resolving issues and just making sure that districts are comfortable with the reporting within the Ed Plan SC system. We have moved that date, the submission date for this report, to March 14th. Okay. It is a report. It reports the percent of youth who are no longer in secondary school and had IEPs in effect at the time they left school and were enrolled in higher education within 1 year of leaving high school. B, enrolled in higher education or competitively employed within 1 year of leaving high school. Or C, enrolled in higher education or some other post-secondary education or training program, or competitively employed in some other employment within 1 year of leaving high school. So option C becomes like our catch-all, who may have done something, but not to the tune of A or B. Okay. If you guys don't mind putting this survey link in the chat. It is the survey that lets us know that you do want to opt in. And as an opt-in, you are basically, you'll be responsible for contacting the students in your district and completing the survey with them as a means of getting an extra point on your determinations if you have at least 50%, I believe it is, okay? So what you can do if you are in opt-in districts is send flyers, social media blasts, postcard reminders, just anything to let them know, let your families know that it is a legitimate survey, and we do encourage them to complete it. We do want representation because the state is also required to report on non-response bias. And so having as many students or families within your district to complete the surveys helps decrease that risk of having non-response bias for a particular category or subgroup. Okay. And once again, it looks like I've omitted some slides. Let me see something. I want to go back to the survey. The opt-in survey is just basically you reporting, selecting your district and letting us know if you're opting, if you're interested in contacting your students. I don't know what your capacity is or whether or not you have the capacity within your district to contact your students who were on your Table 4 report in June to survey them. You may not have that capacity to do that. If you don't, just say no. It is perfectly fine. But if you do decide, we will provide more information to those districts who are opting in to contact their families, their students, to complete the survey. Okay. All righty. Okay. The systemic verification check, this will be our first go round with the systemic verification checks within Ed Plan SC. I don't know how it will look, so we do recommend and encourage districts to at least submit this February submission to give us an idea of how the report is going to look, to help guide districts in what things they need to look at or check before their final submission in June, I believe it is, for Indicator 7. Just a couple of reminders for the Indicator 7. In order to be counted for the Indicator 7, you must have the service exit date must be between July 1st and June 30th of the 24 2025 school year of the current reporting year, and children must meet the following criteria. Must be between ages 3 and 5, must have at least 6 months of services, a cumulative 180 days, and must have entry and exit ratings along with the progress on all three outcomes. We did learn last month that EdPlan has added a flag or trigger within the system that you can select to notate that the student had less than 180 days of services. So I'm looking forward to that on the report, which would help us on the front side and not having to ask you why there's no data in the system. So I'm looking forward to that. And just the screenshot is just a snippet of the template that we have, and I believe Andrea added it to the resource documents as well, where you can take your COAST data and plug it into the spreadsheet, and it'll tell you if you have any errors or any issues within your data before you submit to us. So we do encourage you to do that. So if you look at the yellow, those are all entry ratings, your outcome, entry outcome 1, 2, and 3. Your blue is your exit ratings, which should be accompanied with a score of 1 through 7, as well as the entry. Both have entry and exit ratings of 1 through 7. The red notates whether or not there was progress to the outcomes, and the yellow is specific for us, and that's what we use to determine your outcomes for indicator 7. I will tell you that we are also proposing, when you get your determinations this year in April, you will get your determinations under the current way. We are proposing using COAST on the determinations as well. So I would recommend that you pay close attention to your COAST ratings, entry ratings, because we're using a combination of the LRE code as well as the COAST data for the early childhood performance factor on the determinations. The outcome category automatically populates based upon the data entered for both entry and exit scores. Each outcome rating derives from OSEP category scale of A through E. And I believe those OSEP outcome categories are found within the document at the header of those documents. Okay. Right now, if you want to do a data quality check or systemic verification check on our website, this is the path to get to that, to the indicator 7 template on the website in the current format. We will also have this template available in the resource locator for you as well. So you'll have 2 areas where you could go to get that template and download it if you want to check your data anytime you want to check your data, as we always encourage you to check your data before submitting to SCD. Students entering kindergarten, COAST is not required for students who are initially placed at kindergarten. If these students appear in your report, notify us. Once again, I don't know how the EdPlan report is going to look, so some of this guidance is what we previously used. So if you have these students, just let us know. We may have some updated guidance once we actually see the report and how it comes to us, and be able to help with some of those things. I'm thinking we may be able to. I'm not 100% sure, so don't hold me to it. But as I think about how the child count came in, and just having some information or having tools available to you to check your data in advance. So also students who will be receiving their IEP review early in the current school year and are going to kindergarten the next year requires an IEP that is written across multiple school year. The recommendation still stands to complete those the exit COAST 3 weeks prior to the end of the school year. The one change that we got from EdPlan is that the LRE will be based on the child count, the October child count. And they're hoping to develop something this summer. But for right now, in Enrich, you will not have more than one LRE code in EdPlan. Okay, so whereas which accounted for a lot of the LRE errors that we had on child count was the previous system giving districts the option to select two LRE codes, which ended up being more of a headache than it was help. In EdPlan, you will not have the ability to choose multiple LREs, and the LRE will be based on the October child count. Okay. Indicator 11 is the 60-day timeline. Basically, is the evaluation completed within 60 days of the parental consent being received in the district? Okay. Please note that the evaluation complete is what stops the timeline. And once again, this guidance is a carryover from the previous system because it was based on the eligibility determination date and not the eval completion date. So moving forward, we want you to really focus in and make sure that the eval complete date is really the end of the evaluation and not the eligibility determination date, okay? Valid reasons for delay. If the parent repeatedly fails to produce the child for an evaluation, this is only applicable in the virtual because the student is in your building in class. Go ahead and move forward with the evaluation materials because the students are there. We did see on the last report, there were a lot of, and I understand that is you guys are just telling us what the reasons are that it's late, but the child being absent, those are not a valid compliance reason. So we understand that you were telling us what happens, but we cannot give you a non-penalty because it's not a valid compliance reason for delay. Okay, so we encourage you when the parents aren't being responsive to just go ahead, move forward, close it out as fast you can from the compliance standpoint. Children that transfers during the evaluation and the new LEA and the parent agrees to extend, that is viable. But you have to tell us that the child transferred and you and the parent agreed to extend, okay?
Good
So we want to
morning,
be,
Carolyn. I'm sorry.
yes.
We have some questions coming up in the chat. I didn't know how you want to address those. Do you want to
Um,
wait till the end or you
yeah,
want to kind of,
let's get through the PowerPoint and then we can double back and answer the
yes, ma'am.
questions. Meanwhile, Andrew, Yolanda, if you guys can answer the questions in the chat as we go along, just to help provide clarification. So only those questions that are still pending on the end, we can discuss those. Okay. Overdue requirements. If the evaluation is overdue or it exceeds the timeline, please remember to give us an explanation stating why it is overdue. Please include dates for each contact, attempts made to the parent or guardian. That the more information you put in there helps us. When we read those comments and we're like, we're not 100% sure, is this really the parent or is it a fault due to the district, is really what we're trying to determine, right? When we're reading those comments. So when we keep asking you, we're asking you because it's borderline and we can't really say. So in those instances, we lean to say the penalty is on the LEA. Okay. Be sure to select the proper outcome, reason, and code for the overdue evaluation. We should not see the number of days exceed the 60-day timeline with a code that says that it was completed on time, right? So if it's overdue, we should see the OL or the OD code that lets us know that it's either due to something the district failed to do or due to the parent. Okay. And please, please, please do not include students' names in those comments, guys. We never know when this data is going to be FOIA'd, so we don't want to share original authentic data with the students' names in it. So just be mindful of that. Please share this information with your psychologists, your teachers, to be sure that they're not adding the students' names in the comments. Okay. So these are the only valid codes. I know that in Enrich, there were tons of codes, tons of things that you saw in the system, but in EdPlan, these are the only valid codes that you will see in the, or should see in the system. Anything the parents denied or removed consent, the students exited, the parents are non-responsive. We kind of grouped anything pertaining to the parents under D, and those are excluded. So as long as your comment notates and informs us that it is overdue or based on something the parents repeatedly failed to do, then we do give you the exclusion for that, okay? But anything with an OL, we need to see a comment with that. Okay, and we did want to include the formula as it is in the SPP APR for indicator 11, and it's the number of children whose evaluation were completed within 60 days divided by the number of children whom parental consent to evaluate was received, okay? Times 100%, and that gives you the percentage for the 60-day timeline, indicator 11. Okay. Moving on to indicator 12, Andrea is our new point of contact for indicators 7, 11, and 12. So she's looking forward to that. To doing completing all three of these reports. So our error trends previously from the previous system, we had instances where no comments were coming in when it's overdue. And I do need to remind you, I believe for indicator 11 in the current system, it does not flag the districts when it is overdue to add the comments in there. So that may be a bit challenging for the districts because that flag is not going to be there for indicator 11. It does exist for 12. I don't know how it was omitted, but it has been brought to their attention. I do not know if it will be in there or corrected in the system by the end of the year. So there may be a bit of back and forth getting clarification from the districts for indicator 11 for any that is overdue and the comment is not in the system, okay? If it's overdue to no consent, close it out. If you don't have consent, you shouldn't be moving forward anyway. So if it's overdue to a no consent, go ahead and close it out. Like, don't take the penalty because you're waiting for the parent to consent. And I get that there are some districts that are concerned about the back and forth. Once again, I understand the purpose, but then you have to also comply with compliance, right? And so this is what happens when you allow those evaluations or the C2B transitions to just linger and not closing them out. If it's overdue for summer birthday, you will receive on-time credit as long as the meeting is before the child's third birthday. And we see an August IEP start date because we do know that parents sometimes defer the start date for the child, but we just need to see the meeting date is actually before the child's third birthday, even if it is during the summer, and we will extend an on-time credit for that, for those submissions. Okay. For 12, C2B, these are the valid reasons that you will see within the system, and all of the events must comply with one of these outcomes. Remember, if it is overdue, it requires a detailed comment to help us determine whether there's a penalty or non-penalty assessed. Things to do when the timeline has been exceeded, provide detailed explanation stating why. We understand that sometimes the details or the explanations that you submit does not comply with compliance, but we do try, if we can wholeheartedly see, we do lean and extend grace where we can in those instances where it is truly not the district's fault as to why it's overdue. Okay. If we can see that you have been attempting the parents and they've been unresponsive, we do give the no penalty credit for those. Once again, be sure to select the proper outcome, reason, and code for the overdue IEPs, and do not include students' names in the comments. Okay, this is our formula for 12. So it is the number that is on time and eligible, divided by the total number minus your A, B, D, and P outcomes. And that's what gives you the percentage. Times 100 gives you the percentage for 12. Okay, time check here. We're moving pretty fast, so we may be able to circle back in the chat and get all of the questions answered. Okay, to our enriched districts. Okay, we do need you to download those report in its current state. Check it for errors before you submit to us, because I'm going to take that data, format it to the requirements of the ed plan, and that's the lens that I'm looking at when I'm providing your feedback to you. I do want to apologize to the enriched districts because I negated that you guys were still in enrich, and so for the expired IEPs, that should not have applied to you guys, and I did that, so it made your report look very ugly when looking for clarification, so my apologies for that. Those students will be removed from your report. But I do need you to follow the verification process. We're still looking for those same fields, whichever the report is that we're working on. We're still looking at those reporting required fields. So you must check those things before you submit. Check for blanks in those required fields. Make corrections within the spreadsheet and then upload it into ADT, and then notify us that you've actually added the report in there. Anytime, and this would be applicable to all districts, anytime you're adding data into ADT, let us know. There's not anything that notifies us to say that data has been placed in ADT. Otherwise, it's just kind of sitting there until we get to the end and we start going through the process. And we start at the top and work our way down, looking in each individual district's folder to see if anything is there. Okay. Just a couple of reminders. Our parent involvement survey, that submission is due February 28th. I did see that there is a tentative report in Ed Plan right now. So for those of you who see that report in there, what you are submitting to us is just basically demographics information, the race, ethnicity, gender, disability, parents' names, address, phone number, and email address. We will then take that information and try to contact the parents to complete the surveys before we send the postcards out in May. So we're hoping that the survey will be the reporting districts will be notified sometime in March that the survey is open. So we'll have from March to July 30th for them to complete the parent involvement survey for those districts that are reporting, that are scheduled to report this year. And we will also have those reporting districts posted on the website. And that's all I'm going to say about that for now. Okay. Our meeting, a monthly meeting for February will be centered around incident management reporting. Aveen Coleman will be joining us. There was no conversation about Table 5 intentional on this call because we did not want to hijack the meeting with those questions. But Aveen will be on our call, monthly meeting call in November. So please, please, please feel free to invite your incident management people or the people that's working on the discipline. Feel free to extend it to your administrators so that they can hear how the data is collected, what we're looking for through the lens of IDEA. And that is going to be February 27th from 10 to 12. So that will be a 2-hour meeting versus a 1-hour meeting. Our systemic verification checks for indicators 7, 11, and 12. That submission is due February 14th and again in April. Okay. So we do strongly encourage you to participate in those systemic verification checks. It can't hurt. It can only help, right? As long as, we do also encourage you to make changes as recommended by our team. That helps us and helps you on your final submission. So if you're participating in a systemic verification check and we're giving you recommendations or suggestions on things to correct, make sure that you're correcting those things prior to the next systemic verification check. Otherwise, those things still appear as an error or an issue on your report. So the idea is for us to tell you so that you could get it corrected in your system before final submission, okay? Just a reminder that our meetings are now held on the fourth Thursdays at 10 o'clock. The meetings are recorded and will be posted to the website. Feel free to share. For those of you, as it pertains to the incident management as well as the data reporting managers, you want to contact your technology coordinator or your IT coordinator. The title varies from district to district, and have them to add or remove you to the role of special education reporting data managers. That's what allows you to get our communication. That is the list that we use when we're updating and sending out information to the districts. I I download this list the first of every month, and that is what I use for the month. So if you're added late, the important thing is to get added so that you'll be in the next cycle of updates. This is the call-in information, the meeting ID, the password. Feel free to share it. This is what we will use for all of our meetings this year. Okay. All right. This is the resource locator link. This is where we put all of our guidance, our documentation for you to easily assess. If it's not posted on the website, you should be able to find it here in this location. Okay. Okay, it's about 10:37. If you guys know, we're going to go to the chat to see what's going on out there. If you
Carolyn,
guys, yes.
did you want to stop the recording at this point or continue on?
Let's continue on. If it starts going left, then we'll stop the recording to
Okay.
have an open dialogue. Okay.
I believe participants can just come off mute and ask your questions directly, or we can go through the chat to address any questions that were given here.
We hop our back. We go in the chat. Does somebody want to read off the questions to me?
Yeah, here, give me 1 second. I'm trying to see if I can scroll up to find them. Okay, so for looks like table 2, is the state still advising if the student example is autism and receives speech services not as a disability, but part of their autism primary? That would
I'm
count for that SLP under their FTE percentage in the related services line columns in section D.
I'm not under. Oh, you mean for the speech language? I'm not following the question. Could that
It
person
looks
come
like it
off
came
mute?
from Sonia. She can come off of mute and ask her question directly if she's still on.
And while we wait for Sonia to do that, yes, contract employees are included in table 2. The template is in the resource locator, and Albert did add the link to the table 2 form, the personnel reform, in the chat as well.
Caitlin, do you have any control of unmuting participant? Because I don't have that option. Hold on, let me see. Yes, I do. I just said,
Okay,
hold on.
cool. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, now participants can unmute themselves and ask their questions directly.
Okay.
Sonia said her mic is not working, Carolyn.
Okay.
so-
Okay. Okay. I'm just going to kind of read down the chat to see. We allocate all personnel. Do we use caseload? So an SLP with 40 students and 10 are pre-K. They are 0.25. Do we need to figure out the actual hours spent? If you are looking at a true FTE, you do need to take into account the amount of time that they're spending with each category based on the number of hours in your school day and the number of hours that they work with each of those population. That's the simplest way that I could put that. Karen, so if you still have questions about it after this meeting, just give me a call and we could talk through it, okay?
Hey, Carolyn, it's Joan. How are you?
I'm good, and yourself?
Good. Just a quick question about table 2 with us having so many alt certified people, and alt certified people, are employed as teachers, but some of them are still completing their programs, kind of the on-the-job training certification thing.
Mm-hmm.
Do we count them as fully certified or non-fully certified?
So and so that's a question that I would pose back to your district. Are they counting them as a certified staff?
Yeah, they're
If they-
employed as teachers, yeah.
Pardon me, I'm sorry?
They are employed as teachers, and with us have been given, some kind of contract as a teacher.
Okay.
Yeah, they are Carolyn, they are the teacher of record. They're given like the certificate and it's renewed every year based on them accomplishing whatever they need to finish for the alternate route program. So
Okay.
they should be counted. And you can correct me, Joan, if I'm wrong, but you have them in the classroom as the teacher of record, correct?
We do. And
Yeah.
and they're all, even if they're all in the same program, they're at various stages. Some have passed 1 test, some have passed 2 tests, but
So
don't
I-
have their certification yet. So they're kind of all over the place.
Yeah,
So,
I
so
would
they have
lean-
that certificate in place,
Okay.
Carolyn.
If
Yeah.
if they have a valid certificate in place to be in that class, I would count them as.
Okay.
I wouldn't recommend that you ding yourself for a process that they have been given permission to be in. Does it make sense?
Mhm.
So they have something stating that they are certified or they have credentials to be in that position. So I would count them
Yeah.
as. Yep.
Yeah,
And
they
just
would
to
have a
further-
letter of eligibility to be employed.
Right,
And
right.
And just to back that more, when you have to do I think it's February where you do the federal reporting to verify that you have a certified teacher within the classroom. And they're counted. Those alternate route
Okay.
teachers are cleared. So you should be good for that. That's
Okay.
the purpose
Thank
of
you.
having it. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So when IEPs are developed, the LRE will be the next October child count, even if the IEP is developed in November, right? That's what I am thinking, Karen. If you're developing an IEP after the child count date, if it's based on the child count date, I would think that it would be based on the next IEP, but I will get clarification on that for you and share with everyone. Okay.
Yeah, this is Karen again, and that kind of was what I assumed was the answer. But back to that last question about certified teachers. So if there is a long-term sub in the classroom, do we count them as a teacher at all? Or do we count them as non-certified?
So subs are different than a long-term sub. But once again, you would need to check with your HR department to see if they have a certificate to be in that
Right.
class. Because just
I
because
They
you're
know that
don't.
they
sub,
don't.
yeah.
They
Then,
don't.
okay, if they don't,
If I
then
know that they don't, but my
Yeah.
question was originally, I was not going to count them as teachers at all because they, they're open positions while we're looking to hire somebody. But my question is, but they are in that classroom while
were
we're
they there
holding
on
the
child
class.
count? Were they there on child count date?
I'll have to think about it, but probably.
Okay, so if they were there, if they were
in the
there on child
classroom,
count, then
so
you
like if I have a parapro that's serving as a teacher, do I count her as a parapro or do I count her as a non-certified teacher?
well, I
Okay.
think that's twofold. I think go ahead, Andrea.
Oh, Kellen, I was just gonna say, the long-term subs, they are not certified. They don't have a
Right.
certificate. So if you're saying that you're counting certified personnel, they would be excluded from that because they are not certified.
No,
So
I
they'd
was
be-
wondering on the list, do we call them as non-certified teachers?
They would fall
I was
into the
gonna-
non-certified. I think they would fall
Okay.
into the non-certified group. So you say you have a paraprofessional that is serving as a teacher?
As the lead, they're filling in while the teacher's not there. So do I count her as a parapro or do I count her as a teacher? Because she's in charge of the classroom.
Let's talk about that off record, okay?
Okay.
All
I'll
right.
probably call you later this afternoon. We're
Yes,
home on a
please.
snow day today, but I'm
Okay,
planning after this meeting, it should be warm enough for me to drive safely. And so I plan to go to the office in about an hour.
okay, sounds good.
Hey, Carolyn.
Hey,
This is Sonia. I dialed in. Sorry.
okay, thank you.
My laptop has been a problem all year. So on table 2, we just for the percentage. So say if the FTE, I'll go with the 1.0, and a lot of our speech are 0.8 or 0.4. So I know like how to calculate it. But if they have a caseload that some are speech, say they could be in all 4 of these categories, 3 to 4, 5K to 21 with speech, but they could also have like a child that's primary as autism, no disability of speech, but receives speech services. We still count that percentage of their FTE in the related services?
Okay, so it's twofold, right? So when you're talking, if you have speech folks they have students on their caseload where they are the primary as well as related services, I think you need to look at what percent because we're talking two different things, and that's a part of the reason why when it comes to speech, that is on a separate tab, but it does get
Right.
added back into, right? So you want to look at what their caseload looks like as it pertains to the teacher as well as it pertains to the related services. For the most part, if a speech pathologist, if they are serving related services, that component, they have some primary on there. So we don't want to double count. So if the majority of their caseload is primary, then I think we count them there.
But wouldn't you, since we do calculate their whole, so they would, as long as it adds up to 100%, say like this person, it's not nobody, but if it was like 50% of their caseload was speech primary and 50% were like DD or autism and have it as a related, they would be 50% in both of those 2 categories?
Correct.
Okay. Just so it adds up to a one full FTE.
Well,
I just
and
put
it's
them in all-
not, and you may not, it may not add up to a 100% kind of deal. You know what I mean? And so that, I think that's the misleading part is that folks are looking for it to add up to like 100%, and it may not.
Why wouldn't it? I mean, if it's a person, 100% of their time, unless they're 0.8 or 0.8.
Really.
Okay. Well, okay. Thank you.
Okay. Let's see. There's a question in the chat. What is they are not yet in school preschool age and parents fail to produce the child. I'm assuming this is in reference to indicators 11 or 12. Felicia, can you come off mute and clarify or? No, maybe not. Okay. Emily, do you want to come off chat and clarify your question?
I can, yeah. So, and I think it kind of goes with the question that the other person asked when we're saying that there's not an option to say that the parent failed to produce the child unless they were virtual. We have preschoolers, 4K, they're not through BabyNet and that kind of thing, who now if time after time they just fail to bring them at all, we do close them out. But we've also had a recent situation where the parent just wasn't going to do it until after our timeline, like it was too late. And we didn't close that out because we knew the parent was going to bring them the next week, but we were kind of at their mercy of when they brought them because that child wasn't in school. So on that one, we would have put that it was parent failure to produce the child was while we were late.
And you would also include in that comment that the parent requested that date. And so that the parent requesting that date would be key to the no penalty because you're doing it because the parent requested it, not because you purposely delayed it. You know what I mean? Or there was something that the district did that caused the delay. So the delay really was because the parent requested it. Which is okay. We just need to see that. We just need to see that.
Couldn't get it. Yeah, they just said they couldn't get it to them before then, so we just found a date after that. So I guess technically we'll just put it as that's not how we put it.
We saw some dates on the overdue that were extensive, like seriously extensive, right? And so, if we're just talking a couple of days here and there, but we shouldn't see 30, 40, 60 days overdue. Those from the compliance side, you cannot allow those things to linger. You have to go ahead and close them out.
Yeah, no, we would close this. Okay, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Nicole, you said it could still apply for PPPSC students and homeschool. Can you clarify?
Yeah, because that was back to we're counting on the parents to produce the kids. We still have to evaluate those kids, but they're not in our schools. You can be 13 and doing an evaluation through a kid that's being homeschooled, and the parent can still fail to produce. So you had implied that it doesn't count for K-12 kids because that we have access to them, but we don't necessarily always have access.
In those situations, just add it in the comment, students homeschool. So we know that the looks or the optics of things and, the way that the SIS system flows now, it looks as though students are there. So in those instances, those special situations, just add it in the comment that the student was homeschooled. So that lets us know that this child wasn't physically in school, but it was a virtual setting that this applies to. Where do we put the comments for 60-day agree to extend? There should be a comment box when it's overdue. There's a comment box for you to add your explanations or help us to help you rule it out as a penalty on the district. So just add it there. I think it's a comment box. I'm not 100% sure. I haven't really seen the flow or the look of the reports in EdPlan just yet, but I'm told that there's a comment box. That's Joan's question. So we're sending email. Yes, if you are adding, anytime you're adding information in ADT for us, just send us an email letting us know that you put something in there for us. I do have to remind you guys, please, please, please do not send those child count reports back with students' information in it. That is a violation of PII, and we have to protect at all costs, which is why we use ADT. So if there's something that you need us to check on your behalf, add it in ADT, and we can go over there and pick it up and look at it. But do not email those spreadsheets back to me with students' names, birth dates, all that good stuff in there. Please do not do that. Okay. Should we expect a response? Yes, someone is going to, should contact you when you send the email to the special education services. I have been working on child count, so I'm a little delayed, and Albert and Yolanda were working on the table 5 information. So we are back to checking those. We're just a little delayed with it, but every question that you send to us you will get a response. Even if it's late, you'll get a response from us. We are the district using Enrich at the child count. We uploaded our count, but we received a different. Okay, so to Williamsburg, Belvanisa. So I sent a report back to you based on the combined report looking at all of the district's information. I think you looked at that and said, oh, this is wrong, when it really wasn't. Because what I placed in ADT for you to review was the combined looking at every child in the state, right? So it did look different than what you sent to me because I had to formulate consolidate the report into a standard reporting format. So that's why it looks different. You don't need to do a third submission. I just need you to look at the clarification report that I placed in ADT and respond accordingly.
Carolyn,
Yes.
so the form that you sent us, it actually removed about 100 students from our child count. And so that's why we resubmitted it, because the form that you sent, it removed approximately 100 students from our report.
It should not have, but I'll take a look at it again and send you an updated one, okay?
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. And you want me to look at the last report that you put in there in ADT?
Yes, ma'am. And so at this point, you want us to just give you an opportunity to look at it before we
Yeah, let me look
do
at it.
anything else?
If students were removed, because that wasn't the intent, it was just a consolidated report. Okay, let me take a look at it and I'll get back with you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Let's see, Melissa says she has 2 school-age students with ISPs and Ed Plan error. Okay, so SCDE ISP 5K, that is not the valid LRE that should be displayed. It should have the PPPS, the Parentally Placed Private School LRE code. That is the valid LRE code. And you just put that under description. I don't remember what column it is. I've looked at this data so much, my eyes across, my head is spinning. So whichever column has the description of the LRE code, I think it's the one that says LRE placements, that's where you would place it and I would get it from there. Table 2, it is reflected as of the child count date for us, which was October 22nd, 2024 is the child count date that you are basing your table 2 personnel report off of. PPPSC. So you probably had, I'm thinking that the majority of the duplicates came because remember in Ed Plan, students that had expired IEPs as of the child count date were excluded. And so we did not want those to fall through the cracks. So what we did was with the help of some folks from PCG, they helped us to create a report from advanced reporting so that we could add those students who had expired IEPs as of 10/22 back onto your report. So no students would have been excluded. If the students were already on your report, all you had to do was just type the word remove in column A. And that would let me know to take them off of my report. Please, please, please just do not delete students from your report. That does not help me. That actually hurts my process because I'm looking for the word remove. And without that, I'm having to go back and review line by line the student's name, order, different things like that. So just do not remove students from your report. Just leave them in there and type the word remove in column A, and that will let me know to take them off of my report. Yeah, so there we go. I think I got through all of the questions. Yep. So that's why the PPPSC kids probably were duplicates on your child count report. It is because we added those students who had expired IEPs back in. I was told that they were excluded from the report. Some districts went ahead and added the students back in, others didn't. And so it was just an overzealous act on my behalf to make sure that all students are accounted for on child count. Okay. Are there any additional questions? Cool. Okay, well, if there are no additional questions, I'm going to give, I'm not even going to give you a minute back. It is 11 o'clock. Thank you guys for your time. As always, if you need us, contact us, and we are here to assist you. Have a good day.